Yo, what's going on? I don't have Jack here to give you guys some sort of classy intro. He usually has some stupid word to say at the beginning that usually
No,
opens up the
he,
intro. And
he was kind of slacking the past two episodes though, because I don't think he's done it for the past two episodes. It's upsetting.
yes, so but there is one bright side you guys will get to this. You do not have to listen to this episode with Pete's mic echoing because usually I have to take the headphones out so that Jack can hear. But now you don't have to have that echoing. To be fair, I could just give Jack one of the headphones. We could just share it and listen. I guess that would have solved it. I don't know. Whatever.
Just
I get.
troubleshooting for you.
Now people are like, just like, how'd you not think of that? But
Well,
anyway,
like the video because Jack isn't here. Let's be honest.
I know, right? But yes, as I mentioned in my Walking Dead review, Jack and I are on spring break, so we're not actually in the same location. Next week, though, we will be, and we'll have Jack give some of his thoughts on this week's episode, because this week's episode was probably, without, I'll get straight to the point. This was probably the best episode of Better Call Saul yet, and it might even, like I've said this to Pete, and I was texting Jack last night, this might actually rival some of the best Breaking Bad episodes. This episode is 5-0, that's the name of the episode. It's a very Mike-centric episode. I think Saul only appears in a few
All appears in
scenes.
three scenes, I think. Yeah, I think it's
Yes.
two or three scenes that he's in, but the rest of it's all Mike. Mike's in like every other scene.
Yes, this was the Mike episode. This is the big reason why he's in Albuquerque in the first place. We finally know the whole story behind everything, and I don't even know how to really like explain. Just because when I was watching this episode, I kept like predicting because like I was like, all right, what's the story? And then Mike said that I think it was the two cops that were investigating him. They were like, "All right, here's the story of what happened." And so my mind was instantly thinking, "Oh, because I didn't really know. Like it was a nice play of the audience because you knew Mike had criminal connections. So maybe it was, oh, did they get involved in the wrong gang thing? Did Mike maybe? So I was trying to figure out what did Mike do in this situation because I knew something was fishy. I was like, obviously he's acting like something's fishy. I was like, something has to have had happened that he's not saying to these two cops that are interrogating him. I know there's something, and continuously, I don't know if you got this feeling. There was a feeling where I was on the fence about what was going on. Like I was thinking to myself, oh, maybe it was this, and then there would be a surprise that would completely turn. Like for me, like I was completely surprised that obviously this is a big spoiler. It's in the description. Big spoilers for this episode. I was surprised that Mike's son Matty, um, the two sergeants, I forget their two names, that they were the ones that killed him, that staged that. I just didn't expect it. What I expected it to be some sort of gang thing, and then they got away scot free. Like in my mind, when that story was first told to me, I didn't make the connection that these two cops could be crooked cops that did this whole thing. And so when Mike went, and then there was the scene in the bar. Like Mike mentioned the bar scene, but it was very brief descriptions, and it was just something that was played off. And then Mike was drunk at the bar. Like I kept thinking, I was going along with the story, and so this was one of the times where I wasn't picking up the hints that Vince Gilligan was giving. And so by the end of the episode, I was like, I was taken for like a mind ride. Like I was just like, oh shit, like that's really what was supposed to go down with the situation. Did you feel anything similar to that?
No, I kind of knew whenever
You
I
kind of
first,
knew.
whenever,
You kind of
whenever
knew.
I first threw, I caught the hints, thankfully,
You
that
did.
Gilligan was throwing at us. Well, the first scene, I remember at the beginning of it, the first scene opens up and you see Mike first getting to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was only, alright, let me try and think about this. It was 6 months before, like, the start of Better Call Saul, which was, what, 8 years before Breaking Bad? So Mike hadn't really been in New Mexico for that long, if you think about it. He was only there 6 months longer, than than the show starting. Because this episode, I remember looking back at it and I was drawing parallels to Memento. If any of you have seen that film, it's one of Christopher Nolan's very first films.
Yeah.
And basically, the film like it plays in different it doesn't play in chronological order, this film or this episode. Not in the fact that some scenes go backwards or anything, but the fact that like some scenes take place before Mike moved to Albuquerque. Some scenes take place whenever he moved to Albuquerque, but not in present time, and some scenes take place at present time. So it was interesting to see, but they're all kind of muddled up, so you didn't know in what order the scenes were coming in, and then you got some like themes. Like for example, whenever Mike did go to the bar, I wasn't sure what time that was until you seen the Pennsylvania police. Wasn't it Pennsylvania or? Philadelphia, sorry, Philadelphia, that was it.
Was it Pittsburgh? Yeah, Philadelphia. That was Pittsburgh. It's
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. I love Saul's lines like "Go Eagles."
Yeah,
He's just
so,
like trying to make light of a situation and like
I know.
fucking
So,
Saul.
so you just seen Saul with his one-liners and all, and
Yep.
all that rhymes. And so what happened was, Mike told Saul to spill coffee on one of the detectives that
Mhm.
was from Philadelphia, looking to try and rat Mike out because he was obviously seen as a prime suspect because as you seen in the Notebook, and I actually had to pause it because I missed it the first time and I paused it thanks to Netflix. I managed to see what it said in the Notebook. The first few pages were all like crime details and none of it really was that noticeable. But then the final page of it showed the timeline of what happened. So you've seen, Maddie dies in the first thing, and then after Maddie dies, then Mike's daughter-in-law, basically Maddie's widow, moves to New Mexico. Yeah, it's New Mexico that she moves to. And then the two police officers get killed, and then the next day Mike moves to New Mexico. So obviously the detectives think there's something really fishy going on here, so they go and investigate Mike, and that's when he finds out. And Mike goes to his daughter's house to ask, because he at that point he pretty much knew that she ratted him out, well not ratted him out, but she called the police, and they went straight to him, and he was basically telling her that it was dangerous, and then she reveals that this has something to do with money, and that's a pretty interesting, revelation. Because in Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, everything it all goes back to money.
Yep.
Everything in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, it all goes back to money. So of course, whenever the detectives came back, it was because of money. What happened was, Maddie's widow found a stash of money. I think it was like $5,000-6,000, found in a suitcase. I think she said. And
Mhm.
then, and Mike is like, you notice at the start of the scene, at the start of the episode, Mike lies quite a lot, and you don't know it at the time, but then once you get to the final scene of the episode, and oh boy, let's talk about the final scene once we get to it.
Yep.
Yeah, the final scene of the episode, you find out that quite a lot of the stuff that Mike's been saying during the episode have been lies.
Yep.
So initially, he doesn't know anything about it, about Maddie dying, and about the phone call that Maddie makes the night before he dies, or a few days before he dies, whenever it is. And then at that scene, he tells her that he did know about the phone call, but nothing happened. Like he didn't know anything about any dirt or anything. And
Mhm.
then eventually, you find out that he did know a lot more, and yeah, you get that crazy scene at the very end of the scene. But before that, though, you do get the crazy shootout which takes place after the bar, and that was like
That was great. It was funny. I was actually watching this with my dad last night, and it was just so cool because Mike was just playing this drunk role, and he manipulated the whole fucking scene. So great. So great things. What he did. He pretended to be drunk. First of all, he went to the bar guy and told him that he was walking home, and that gives him an alibi. Like that immediately like kind of solidified that he has a witness that he can say, oh, I was just walking home because I was drunk. And so he played that in the beginning. He puts in what did he? I forget what. And when he opened the cop car with the string, what did he put inside there? Like another gun
yeah,
or something?
he felt like a muse or something. Well, yeah. So what happened was, whenever he did that, I think he must have put like some sort of fake muse type thing, because the cops obviously knew that he broke in, because they said that to him whenever they were in the car with him. And he must have done something, like maybe he did something really stupid, like he tried to place like a very obvious trap, and they didn't fall for it. But secretly, what he actually was doing was he was placing a gun underneath the seat. It looks like, or underneath a cushion or whatever. And so then, whenever they confiscate the gun from him, because it's so crazy, because Mike had all of this planned out. He knew that he would walk home. He knew that he would encounter the police whenever he walked home, and it will be those two. He knew that they would find out about the car being open, but would
Oh,
suspect
that
him.
was what he did. He put the gun. He had the gun in.
He
He
had
put
a
the gun.
gun
Yeah,
on
he
him.
put the gun under the car, but it didn't. Remember when he's drunk in the car and the cops take the gun from him?
Yeah, yeah. They take another gun from like one
Yeah,
cop.
and then that one cop tries to shoot him, but the gun has no ammo in it. Remember that? I think that's
Yeah.
what he did. He purposely took the ammunition out so that if they tried to kill him, they'd have no bullets.
Well, they had bullets on their actual guns, but the guy was holding Mike's gun at the time because he was going to kill Mike with the gun that he was holding, with his own gun, because that would make it look like suicide. I think he was trying to frame him for suicide because it was Mike's gun and he was in an empty parking lot and stuff, and
Yep.
they would make it look like it was suicide. However, obviously Mike managed to empty out his entire gun before any of this even happened, so that whenever they pointed at him, because they had like a standoff eventually, because Mike was sitting there and they were basically just saying to him, right, we should kill him now, it'll make it look like suicide because it'll be his gun and stuff. and then they don't even get to finish their anecdote whenever Mike points the gun, and it was like a revolver and all. It was a pretty sick gun as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It was small revolvers, and they were pointing it at them, and that's whenever the gunfight or whenever the showdown happens in the gunfight, which it reminded me quite a lot of the Hank or massive spoilers for Breaking Bad, by the way, just to let you know, because not only for here, but I'm going to mention some Breaking Bad that's pretty
Yep.
pretty spoiler heavy as well. But it reminded me a lot of the Hank shootout scene between him and the two cartel twins. Or the two cartel cousins, sorry, not the twins. The cousins.
Okay, two ghost cousins.
Yeah.
Okay,
In that, you know, how brutal it was, and how the guy, like how Mike does get shot, and you know he's going to survive because this takes place in the past. But the fact that, you know, he had a close call, and one of the guys survives, funny enough, much just like the cousins, or like the guy with the axe survives as well until he gets shot in the head. And similarly in here, whenever the guy's trying to crawl away, and then Mike just shoots him in the back of the head, and that's it.
Yep.
Done.
Yep. And the great thing about it was, even my dad was saying this, he's like, he got these two guys to drive him into the middle of fucking nowhere so that he reversed the fucking, he turned the tables because they were doing it. When he admitted to him, it was the greatest fucking thing ever because he said all this when he was drunk. So it's not like the frame of mind was different. Because these guys are hearing Mike admit, I know what you did to my son, and they're thinking, oh shit, but they think he's drunk, so they can't really have a normal conversation with him. So they don't even have a conversation, and so they go to where he wants them to go, and then then his other part of the plan plays in with the gun, and then he is able to do what he wants in killing them because they brought him to do the very same thing. Like, it was such a reverse because everything they were trying to do, he flipped it completely. And it was just great because obviously these two guys were scumbags, and that was that was great to a further level, that final scene where, and here was the moment where I was like, damn, because I was thinking to myself, I asked myself, I wonder if Mike's gonna cry, I wonder if he's gonna break down from this, because Mike's he doesn't really show emotion, if you'd agree with that. Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul so far, he's kind of just like he's just kind of, he has the eyes, he just kind of stares at you.
The only time he shows emotion is when he's with his granddaughter, and that's like, you know, happiness, and, you know, that's when you see genuine happiness from Mike, but whenever he's not around his granddaughter, like, nothing.
Yeah, he's just void of it. He's almost like Gustavo Fring, kind of. I guess that's why the two work together, but they kind of have this void of anything. They don't play anything, a poker face almost. And this final scene where he's talking to the wife and the wife of Maddie, and he just kind of breaks down because he's like, he tried to help his son out of this situation, and even when like it's almost like he kind of feels like he's to blame for this kind of thing, and he just kind of breaks down because like his son Maddie didn't deserve it. Like he was doing the right thing, and it was Mike almost brought him into the situation. It was almost his fault. And obviously it was these two guys' fault, which is why he, you know, murdered them. But, you know, I just thought it was just like a beautiful scene. It was just
well, Mike admitted to the daughter-in-law that basically no cop is squeaky clean completely. Every cop has got some dirt behind them. Like, and he even said that in the phone call with Maddie, he admitted that he himself had a bit of dirt. I think he was talking about bribes and stuff, like how he would like. I think that was the general thing around cops. Like, this is what it was all about. It was all about bribes. And how basically they were accepting the bribes, and that's how the money got in the suitcase in the first place. And Manny didn't want to take it, but whereas the other two guys, they were going to take it because they were scum. They were going to take it anyway. And he was on the phone to Mike, who, as the daughter-in-law said, I think in the first scene, she was like, he can talk to you about anything, and that was exactly what was happening there. And Mike actually convinced him to keep the money because it was either keep the money and stay hush about it, or take the money to Infernal Affairs and get, was it Infernal Affairs, I think he said?
Yeah, it was some sort of deal.
Then he would get killed, basically, by his partners if that was to happen.
Yep, it was just basically like a drug deal that was obviously it's twisted, and it was like a crooked deal kind of thing.
Yeah, and so basically what happened was he took the money, but they killed him anyway. Like, he stayed hush and they kept the money. But I think the two police officers must have got scared because he has Mike, and he probably would have, and he did tell Mike, and Mike might have got annoyed because they didn't know if Mike was squeaky clean or not. They probably thought he was as clean as they come. They couldn't make that prediction, and so they killed him anyway. And obviously, big mistake because they got exactly what they deserved.
Yeah, I know. It was just like such comeuppance, says the word for that. Just like it was just such a delivering of justice, and it's funny because I mean, it's almost like this is Mike becoming the killer. Like, I almost feel like this is now the reason why he gets involved with the drug industry. Because now, because of the loss of his son, it's almost like he owes his granddaughter something. Like, and it's almost like he doesn't care. Now that he's almost like this guilt is weighing him with his son. That now he's willing to kill and do whatever it takes to get money. That's why in the events of Breaking Bad, he goes to such lengths to get the money for his granddaughter kind of thing. If you can see that now, I
Yeah.
think that's a great connection because it shows now why
Well,
this man did what he did.
I was reading up a little bit about the episode, like while I was eating dinner, like whenever I finished the episode, like I had some food as I was still eating, so I was like, okay, let me just check out some, because I normally go on like some webs or like a website or two after watching the Saul episodes and maybe get some insight into stuff, maybe getting a little bit of like tidbits. So so some people that maybe listen to this show may think, oh wow, Pete knows quite a lot about this. It's not because I pay attention to every single detail whenever I watch stuff. Honestly, it's quite the contrary. Sometimes I miss out quite a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
it's because I read up on this kind of stuff. And somebody mentioned, and I'm so not, I didn't think of this point, okay? And I want to say that this was my point, but I can't even make it because somebody else did it, okay?
Yeah.
Think back, okay? And I'm going to say this because I'm pretty sure you don't know this point. Think back to Mike's relationship with Jesse in Breaking Bad, and think back to in series 4 or series 5. I think it was series 4.
Series?
That
See, you mean season?
season, sorry, the series is a British way to say it, but
Oh,
season
okay.
4, yeah. Mike constantly took Jesse out on these runs that he would do, and I think at that point Mike started to feel something that he never felt before since he did this stuff with Maddie, and I think honestly it makes that relationship even more heartbreaking whenever you look back and think that Mike viewed Jesse as his own son, who isn't there anymore because he was killed by these two police officers, and so it's crazy whenever you look back at it and see
Oh, so it's
him.
almost like the stuff with Jesse. That's why they became so close because he kind of felt that.
He viewed Jesse as like a son figure because he didn't have a son of his own, and so Jesse was the closest thing to it because Jesse got dragged into this whole industry and stuff, and reluctantly he did accompany Mike in these drive things, but he kept on doing it though. It was like every day Mike would drive up to Jesse's house and like pick him up, and they'd do the runs. And so
Yep.
you realize why he kept on doing that. Like sometimes you think, why is Mike doing this? Does Mike really need an extra pair of hands? But you realize that it's because, that it was because Mike, he wanted a son figure because he hadn't had one
I
so long.
almost wonder if that would have been a better situation if Walter White had died and then Gustavo would have had Jesse as the main cook with like Mike and stuff. Like I almost
Yeah,
feel
then it
like
would have been like Mike would have probably looked up really up to Jesse because, well, not maybe looked up, but he really, really,
respected
like,
him.
yeah,
Yep.
because and obviously probably would have went to as far as to like love him, I'd say, in a way. And Mike Ehrmantraut, he is not one to show him an emotion as strong as that, but I mean, from that you could see where that was going, and then obviously massive spoilers for the way for series 5. Obviously that things didn't go out, and then series 5 Walter and really messed things up with that whole.
And that's almost understandable why Mike wanted to die that way. I like when Walter's trying to talk to him and he's like, "Shut the fuck up, Walter, and let me die in peace." It's almost like he's finally being brought maybe to his son. Like he's like kind of ready, kind of thing. Like it's almost like he's been waiting for death. That's why that scene confused me in season 5. I'm like, oh, why is he taking this death thing?
Yeah,
So
now you kind of look back, like you think that because Mike had all that good times with Jesse in season 4, and then in season 5 all went absolutely mad because Walter got really power hungry, and he just wanted more and more and more, and he done it so much to the point where he destroyed every relationship in that branch where Mike wanted out and Jesse wanted out, and then obviously that caused Walt to shoot Mike because he started insulting his ego. And I think, yeah, that Mike was accepting death because all the good stuff that he did have, like if he died in season 4, he probably would have been a lot more upset because, he was just starting to, do this stuff with Jesse and all that stuff. But because it was all destroyed by the time he was dying, he was just like, there's nothing left for me here. I've done all that I need to do and whatever. I mean, obviously my granddaughter's still around, but, there's nothing I can really do.
and I love that how in season 5 in Breaking Bad, Jesse wants to give some of his money. Remember when he goes to Saul, he's like, that money is for Mike's granddaughter, and that money
Yeah.
is yeah.
Again, further enforcing this like potential father figure that he could have been
Yeah.
to Mike's only living blood relative left.
Mm-hmm.
in Breaking Bad.
So let's talk now the previews for next week, which I know you never get to see.
Again, hit me.
The conflict doesn't. All right, there's two different plots going on now. It
Oh,
seems
boy.
like the cops from Philadelphia still aren't laying off, and Saul goes up to Mike and is like, "These cops aren't laying off." The second thing is Saul almost is rich now. He buys like this big, like kind of like a giant apartment place, and that woman's like, "Oh wow, you've been swimming in the money." And so he's at this dinner conference with the elderly. So it looks like Saul's making quite a bit of bank. And
Oh,
then
from his
and then his
lady.
yeah, and then his brother's like, "Wow, I'm really impressed." So it shows Saul with a lot of money, and then him still dealing with the Mike situation.
Yeah.
That's next week's.
Well, I
So
mean, this episode was pretty upsetting in a way. Like, I mean, it was pretty good seeing justice being served. But, I mean, that final episode really showed, Mike's heartbreak with what happened with his son and what happened with all this police department and why he had to be on the run. And so I think the next episode is going to be a bit more uplifting. It's going to show a lot more success and positivity. It is called Bingo, by the way. So we're back to the O's again. So we had 5-0 today, and then we have Bingo next week. So, or maybe you never know. Maybe Saul could just win like $5 million in bingo, and that's why you never know. Like
yeah, I think the implication was that his business is going well with the elderly, and
yeah, and so we're just wondering when's that going to change? Because I mean, we still have what like I think this marks the halfway point in the series, or maybe next episode is the
yeah,
official halfway point.
yeah, possibly. I don't know when these episodes end because Walking Dead ends at episode 16, and I don't know if Saul and Walking Dead are because they both their seasons or their second half seasons or beginning started at the same time, so I'm kind of timing them out on the same pace. So I don't know. Maybe Vince Gilligan could do it differently. I'm not sure, but we'll have
Yeah.
to see. In terms of scores, I don't know if I'm going to be biased in having this score, but I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna I don't know, kind of break any rules here, but I think this is a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm gonna give
10
this.
out of 10. Whoa.
I'm giving this because it was just such.
First all episodes.
Because now I'll defend this with obviously all the points we made in this video, but I'm also gonna defend it by saying that this episode, like, I genuinely felt for the character, like I felt connected with the show more than ever, and when I like it just I've had this with other media in the past and stuff, but when the show like when any of those past media things or even like a show like this when that does that like that's like a clear signal to me that it's doing something like right that it had and this episode like it just had everything you even though you had Saul's quirkiness in some episodes like every scene kind of showed a different part and it all built towards this big kind of conclusion slash revelation so I love the episode the way the directing and the direction it was different from anything we've had before if you'd agree with that and B it just the way it was crafted I
Yeah,
felt
some of the shots were brilliant.
yeah
Like the segue shot whenever he was like walking away from the vet, and then it cut straight into the interrogation scene. That was like some shots of that were beautiful.
yeah
Just like smoothly.
so I don't know that I'm giving it I mean I'll talk to Jack next week at the beginning of our episode we'll discuss it a little bit but I'm standing by a 10 out of 10 I think this is the one episode I think that's going to get my stamp of approval of being perfect and I've never in any Walking Dead episode I came close with the first episode of season 5 of The Walking Dead I came close to giving that a 10 but no this is I've never given a Walking Dead episode a 10 this is the first review on my channel I've ever given a 10 a perfect score so congrats to Vince Gilligan
Right.
on this one. This was a good one. So how about you? What do you think?
So congrats to Gordon Smith and Adam Bernstein who who wrote and directed this episode respectively. So there
Yes,
you go.
as well as them. Shout out to them.
And,
Yeah.
and Peter wasn't it Peter Gould?
Peter Good, yeah.
I call him the Invisible Man because no one ever everyone's always talking about Vince Gilligan, but really this series was created by both Vince Gilligan and
Yeah. So all right, we'll give everyone credit. We've given everyone their plugs. So
why
what
not?
what do you think? Your score? What's
I'm not putting up to 10. I'm sorry because like it takes a lot to get 10. The only episode like of Breaking Bad I would have ever given a 10 out of 10 was the crazy one. I mean, there's been massive spoilers here anyway, so you're not gonna be surprised by this. Is the episode when Hank dies? Like that was like a
Ozymandias? That's the name of the episode.
I can never pronounce. That's why I had to say that. Ozymandias. Like that was like every single scene in that like really hit. But I mean, think about it. That had like 5 years of build up to finally get that shootout and finally get what was coming.
But hell, that says something. This show is only this is like what the 7th episode, and it I don't know. I still stand by my decision. But what about you? What's your score? Without being
I'm gonna go one lower than you. I'm gonna go 9 out of 10, which is pretty impressive considering it was starting to go down for me. Like I remember the last episode I gave a 9. I think was the first episode was 9. And I remember, and quite a lot of stuff was like, and I mean, I'm not gonna give it a 10 because I still like, I mean, despite it being all really good and all, I don't think that much was really achieved in the 42 minutes that it ran. So I see the Wikipedia page here, that's why I know that's all exact. But the 14
What do
minutes,
you
I
think
know,
could have been improved? It's all right. So you give it a
I think
9 out of 10. What
I
could
think
it
it could have cut a bit more into like the present day stuff because I mean, if you think about what happened in the present day that moves the story forward, it was just the interrogation and Saul spilling the coffee, and Mike telling, doing all that stuff. But like nothing really. I mean, it was starting to build some momentum with the whole Saul storyline with like Chuck and all that stuff, and Chuck being having his having his like his disease, whatever you want to call it, thing, his phobia,
be? Yeah.
mental question. It was building quite a lot of stuff into that, and you've seen basically the Saul and the oh flip, what's the name of them again? The business that Chuck worked for,
Hoffman.
whatever they were called. Yeah, there was, yeah, you started to see that kind of build, and I think this episode, as good as it was a really good episode. I do feel it kind of lost a bit of that steam, but hopefully maybe the next episode can bring it straight back. I don't know.
I don't think it was that kind of episode though. Like there was no way they could have incorporated anything more. And even so, the present day stuff that was achieved, Saul understands Mike's whole story of what happened. Well, minus the big details, obviously. And it kind of establishes more of a relationship with them. And in the present day, Mike admits all of this to the wife. She knows everything now. That's the
Yeah.
other big thing. That's the other big present day thing
I
that
mean, I know.
happens.
I mean, yeah, I know that. I mean, it's not a bad thing that it's not like a pretty. It's not something I'd be really angry about. The really dampen the episode, but I think it works to its advantage because I viewed this episode almost as if it was like its own short film, where like
Yeah.
you could have shown this episode to anyone, and they didn't even have to see Breaking Bad. They didn't even have to see any of Better Call Saul. They could have just watched this episode. It was like a mini version of like because literally we just think about it from like its most basic things. This old man who had a history with the police department. He's trying to get revenge for his son's death, and it's all done, beautifully written and beautifully shot. So I think in that way it did really work in that sense. But yeah, again, I'll give it a 9 for now. Once again, I don't think I can bump it up any further than that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, there's just it's
That's
hard to explain.
understandable. I was even
Get
thinking
that
that, like
feeling.
the show is about Saul's rise as a
Yeah,
lawyer, and so this episode was like the Mike show. I was thinking that. I almost remember when we were watching
yeah,
RB.
Mike basically.
I remember when we were watching RB and the Chief, which I'm sure nobody here watching this review even knows. But I remember we kept saying the Eugene show when it would only when the show is about two characters, but then all of a sudden the show focuses on one, not minor character, an
Yeah.
essential
I mean,
character.
the episode could be really good, but then you're kind of thinking, oh, well, what's happening in the current thing? What's been going on that we've been, heading towards? Because we were heading towards this specific thing. It looked like him and say the name again of the business. I can't remember again.
Hoffman firm or something. Yeah.
Hoffman. All right, I need to remember that. How the McGill and the Hoffman stuff was like going neck and
Yeah.
neck in each other.
So here's a question that is an interesting question for you. If there is an episode in Better Call Saul that is this good, but it is Saul who was the person involved, do you think it could be a 10 out of 10 episode? If this all like not saying the specific storyline with the cops, but if something that's this well directed and is just plot intensive, but it's with Saul and it moves the plot forward, that has to do with this stuff.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I think it would need to have a lot of like backstory build up to it, and backstory is in like previous episodes and stuff. Like for example, Oxman Dias, whatever it's called, that had a lot of build up to it. Like that had a lot of stuff accumulating and finalizing there, and you've seen a lot of like character motivation stuff stay true, and it was a brilliant episode. Like if the Soul thing was to happen, it would have to be like the climax of what was happening with McGill and Hoffman and what was happening between them, and it would have to really like pay off in that the characters would stay true to themselves and nothing ridiculous would happen. I wouldn't have flipped an M Night Shyamalan twist or anything, as long as it just like stays grounded to reality but stays really like impactful. I would say so. Like I think this episode didn't have as much of like a backstory thing. Like all we heard about Mike's son and stuff was just from the previous episode, from that one sentence that they were saying, because whenever the Philadelphia police went to Mike's door, you didn't really know much else about it, and so
Yeah.
I couldn't sympathize much with like the characters that he's seen because you didn't see them that much previously. You didn't see any of these characters that much, and so it's good. It's sad obviously to see all of those characters, acting that way and be very upset. But at the same time, it doesn't have that emotional. It doesn't have that real emotional impact that I really want to. I mean, it was sad, but it didn't have like the real full on. But that's just me, of course. It's subjective. So like, I'm sure a lot of people out there, that might be watching this might be like, I don't know what he's talking about every day.
Exactly.
It just didn't for me, and
that's the reason I gave it.
It's still like.
Yeah, that's the reason I gave it a 10 out of 10, just because for me, I was willing to have this sacrifice of an episode, even though we didn't have much progression with Saul other than his relationship with Mike, which I still think is important because that's a big part of Breaking Bad. So this is, kind of extending that relationship with Mike, which
if it was a Breaking Bad episode when Mike had quite a lot of I mean, if you think about season 5 of Breaking Bad, Mike had a lot of importance. He was almost like one of the main cast at that point because he was appearing in every episode quite substantially. I mean, he didn't appear much in the Saul episodes until the final quarter of the last episode, and that's when you got to see him a bit more. Then all of a sudden you have an episode dedicated to him. It was just, it was good to see him again. Jonathan Banks did an excellent job. I will say definitely award worthy, I'd say, because I think the Emmys have best supporting actor awards for the Emmys. I think Jonathan Banks might get a cheeky nomination. Whether he'll win or not, I don't know. I don't watch enough TV.
I nominate him. I think I'd nominate him at this rate. Yeah,
he definitely deserves a nomination. Very least. I mean, we know Odenkirk's probably going to get a nomination.
Yeah, but
whether or not Jonathan Banks is going to get one after this episode, I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Yeah, so we've gone over our time. I don't even know how much time we're in. We're probably way over. The reason why we're able to do this is because usually we have to kind of do these episodes quick, because when we do these on a Tuesday, when I'm not on vacation, usually it's crunch time. I have to go to dinner, and I have work directly after it. So I'm usually very busy, but because that wasn't the case this week, I'm actually glad. This was the episode I wanted to dedicate more time for the review. So
the episode to have a debate on would definitely be this one, because this one was pretty. It wasn't polarizing because a lot of people really enjoyed this episode, and I did too. Don't disregard my 9 out of 10 to be you did I did really enjoy.
Hey, I set the bar high. The only reason you're going to regard his 9 out of 10 as low is because I set the bar high. I blew everyone's socks off with my first official 10 out of 10. So
but I mean, I just think that once again. It's still my second favorite episode of Better Call Saul. Yet is it? I think I might have gave the second episode 9.5 out of 10. But that's only because that had the crazy, once again, they had the crazy build up in the previous episode, and it really paid off in every way. And you got to see the wheels turning and stuff. In this episode, you can't really rate them. You have to rate them kind of differently, because the second episode of Better Call Saul, which I give the highest score I've given to any episode yet, is because I got the wheels turning and I got a lot of stuff done, and it all made a really good impact. Like, you had the Tuco stuff at the beginning, and then you had the twin stuff in the middle, and then you had Saul establishing his business towards the end. Like, you've seen all this crazy stuff happening, and I was gripped from start till finish. This episode, it wasn't in that vibe, but I mean, obviously it wasn't intended to be in that vibe, but it was still really solid in what it was trying to do. I'm more of a person that likes to get a lot of stuff done in the story while being really gripping, instead of focusing on the backstory, which is still interesting, but it's just not as interesting to me. It's not as interesting than getting the story progressed. But that's just me. I'm getting ready for the hate comments coming my way.
Nah, I don't think so. I mean, the thing is, we do these kind of late after the episode comes out anyway, so we're kind of at a disadvantage views-wise, but that's okay. As long over time people can watch them and have their opinions, so that's good. That's always what I go for. So, all right.
I know we never say that, but let us know in the comments, especially for this episode. What did you think of this new?
I would. Of any episode, I would like to see what people thought of this one. So I would like to see that. So
10 out of 10. Was it? I want to see if anyone gives it less than 9. That'd be interesting. And then
if they are, they're trolling. I'm just gonna say that now.
Of course.
All right, so thank you guys for watching. Next week, Jack will return. I guess we can talk about this a little bit, but I would obviously want the focus to be for next week's episode rather than this one.
Do you think he's going to give it a 10?
I was texting him last night, and he said he really, really thought it was. He said to me last night it was the best episode yet. So that's what he said.
I think he might tie 9.5 for the second
Maybe
episode.
We'll see. He has never given a 10 either of our reviews, so we'll see. But I guess that'll be our intro question. So we'll leave off on a cliffhanger of what Jack's score could possibly be for next week for this episode. So we'll see. So thanks for watching. As always, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll add this to a playlist so you can all can see it. Thanks.